lovelies, and welcome to my BookTube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is V, and today I decided to talk about books that weren't right for me in 2022. I don't want to say books that were disappointing, because some of them actually got 3 paws or 4 paws when I rounded them up. So they weren't exactly disappointing, or most of them weren't, but they just weren't for me, and I didn't enjoy them as much as I thought I would. Don't mind me holding on to my coffee while I do this video. It had -5 degrees last night and it's freezing, and to be honest, I just need this coffee to warm myself. What else do I want to say? This video is rather unplanned. I just saw that a lot of people are currently talking about their favorite books or their least favorite books of 2022, and I decided I would go for it as well, as long as I can. So this is the video about the books that didn't work for me, and I'm also planning to go for a video with my favorite books ever of 2022, so stay tuned for that one. And before I continue to babble, I will just jump right into the books that didn't work for me, or, well, one of them was actually a disappointment, but we will get to that soon. Let's just talk about the books. I made a list. It's a short list. There are just 5 books on it. So I actually had a pretty good reading year, considering that I didn't read all too many books. I barely managed to reach my Goodreads challenge goal of 45 books. I actually read 50 by now. I don't know if I will be able to finish other books as well, but I will try. As I said, I want to have a clean slate. And yes, I'm recording this video before Christmas so that I can get it up after, because during the holidays I won't be able to record anything, but you already know that if you've followed this channel, so yeah, I leave it at that. Okay, so the first book that was not exactly a disappointment, but I really expected more from it, was The Cousins by McManus. And I think what this book lacked was, I don't know, character development and better characters in general. I honestly don't remember a single name of the characters that were MCs in this book, which honestly says quite a lot. I thought that the characters in this were pretty generic. If you've read a couple of McManus books already, you know that her characters also have some sort of form they fit in. There's always the clever and beautiful girl, there's always the outsider who's some sort of rebel or has rough edges and is the bad boy. And there's always a character that is super nice and super sweet, but has troubles of their own because they are too nice and too sweet. And that will become a problem on the long run. So this book had all those stereotypes, and it just wasn't anything new for me. I've read a lot of McManus books, and all her characters are built up the same way, and it was just too blunt for me in this book. So that's the reason why this one didn't work out for me. I'm pretty certain a lot of people loved that one and enjoyed it. The Goodreads ratings are pretty high. I think it got at least 4 stars or something like that. So yeah, I guess that's probably a me problem. I just want a little bit more different characters, and not all of the characters should be in the same mold. So that one definitely didn't work for me. But yeah, for others it most definitely worked, so I guess that's just a me thing. Anyway, the second book I'm going to talk about is Whispers Underground by Aaronovitch. I'm pretty certain I butchered the name, but it's really a hard one to say. It was already the third book in a series, and I really like the first two. It's an urban fantasy series about a policeman that comes in contact with ghosts and with the supernatural, and then he's offered to become a magician under the supervision of Nightingale. And yeah, I won't go into too much detail of this series. It's a really nice one. I really enjoyed the first two books, but the third book just didn't do it for me. It was more or less just moving along at a very slow pace, and I don't know. I mean, it was the third book in the series and I just expected more from it. I will definitely go and read the fourth book, but I'm not all too sure if I will continue with the series if the fourth book doesn't sweep me off my feet. So yeah, the verdict on that one is still out. I will have to read the fourth book and then find out if I want to continue with the series or not. This one just was meh for me, I think. Yeah, meh describes it the best. Okay, and now we come to my least favorite book of 2022. I gave this book a rating of 2.5 paws. I probably would have rounded it down if some of the aspects in the book wouldn't have persuaded me to give it 2.5 paws. But if you know me and if you follow this channel for a while, you know that 2.5 paws is a pretty bad rating for me. Or 2 paws at that. So yeah, and the book I'm talking about, I probably should have mentioned that already, is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I'm pretty certain I butchered the name now as well, but never mind. I'm all for butchering names today. I'm horrible, but yeah. Anyway, let's put it aside and just talk about the book. The book was the second book in the series and it just didn't work for me. I gave the first book 4 paws and I really liked it. I had high hopes that the author would, I don't know how to put it, that the author would live up to my expectations with the second book, that she would go for all the things that didn't work all too well for me in the first one, and that she would rectify this, but she didn't. The thing I got from this book was a character development that was all over the place. Honestly, none of the characters, I didn't recognize any of the characters anymore. It was like she wrote an entirely different book. The characters all had 180 degrees change and they were so undecided on whether to be good or bad, and it drove me mental. To read this book was truly frustrating, and I saw the potential in this book. There was so much potential to get the story right, to get it back on track, to develop the characters. But nothing, really nothing of that happened. And that really disappointed me, so I couldn't give this book more than 2.5 paws. And those were 2.5 sentimental paws because I really liked the first book. So there's that. But I just couldn't. All the character development, they were moving in circles. There was no end in sight. I just, no. Okay, let's just leave it at that and go to the next book. Probably some of the people that read this second book actually liked it. I'm pretty certain there are people that enjoyed it, but I definitely wasn't one of them, and I'm not going to continue to read this series because of that, because quite honestly, if the third book is as all over the place as the second one was, I just don't want to read it. That might sound harsh, but it is the way it is. Okay, this said, let's move to the fourth book on my list of disappointments, or it just wasn't for me. And it's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And I had high expectations for this book, probably too high expectations, because everyone said this book is such a tearjerker and you will cry your eyes out and it's so good and so amazing. And I went into that book and expected to be totally blown away. I mean, it's about World War II and how the people in France lived with the Germans in their country. And it should have at least evoked some sort of emotion from me. I mean, I gave this book 3 paws and it was a good book. Honestly, it wasn't bad, but I missed that it didn't evoke any feelings in me. It was such a sad story. If you think about it, it had all the potential to be a really moving story, a story that would stay in my mind and that would haunt me, but it didn't. For me, it didn't. At the ending, when I was supposed to be attached to the characters, I wasn't. And I don't know if it's the writing style. It's been a while I read historical fiction, so that might come into it. But it just didn't work for me. And yeah, I was slightly disappointed that I didn't have that emotional revelation everyone was talking about. Yeah. Okay, and now let's head to the 5th book on my list, and that's Black Butler by Yana Toboso. I had to read it from here because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to say it or pronounce it. I probably pronounced it wrong anyway. Yeah. Okay, let's put that aside and talk about Black Butler. It's a manga series. It was the first volume in the manga series, and I was curious about that one for a very long while, but when I picked it up, I don't know, it didn't work all too well for me. I mean, it was interesting and the premise of the story sounded pretty intriguing, but the way it was developed and executed just didn't hook me. I'm honestly very indifferent to this. I don't have the urge to pick up volume 2 right away, which is never good when you read a manga. Usually when I read a manga and it's really good, I just want to read the second volume ASAP. But that didn't happen with this one. It wasn't exactly bad, but it wasn't amazing enough to hook me right from the start as well. So I'm pretty indifferent towards this series. I could continue to read it or I could just let it be. Yeah, I don't know if I will pick up volume 2. Jam at Bookish Jams said that she will go for volume 2. Apparently the first volume didn't work as well for her as she thought it would. Same way as for me, and I said, okay, you're gonna read the second volume and tell me if it's worth to pick up the series and to continue with it or not. So we agreed on that, and I'm just waiting for Jam's review if she liked it or not and if I should continue the series or not. Usually Jam is my go-to booktuber when it comes to mangas. She has a really great eye for awesome mangas. And so far, I loved every single manga she recommended to me. So yeah, I will just wait for her rating and see if I will continue with the series or not. I know that's a pretty easy way to get out of that tight spot, but well, she said she wants to read it, so I will just take it. Okay, so those were the 5 books, or well, 4 books and 1 manga that didn't work all too well for me in 2022. Next video will be a more positive one, and I will talk about the books that definitely worked for me and that I loved with a fierce passion. So this one will be more positive again. I hope you still enjoyed this video, even though I spoke about books that kind of disappointed me. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, write down in the comments if you've read the books and if you've loved them, or if you disliked them or didn't like them as much as you thought as well. Or just tell me which books of 2022 didn't work for you. I would love to hear that. It's always interesting to hear which kind of books don't work for other booktubers or other readers in general. So yeah, please let me know and write down a comment below. And well, I guess there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, and see you around the next time. Bye!